So, day one is complete. I'm not gonna end up. I may fall asleep to the piano, but right now they're doing the Naoki's room, and that is not being live translated. So this is a good time to sit and talk about my thoughts. Brian and I talked about thoughts to the keynote, and so I think that pretty well sums up kind of my initial impressions of the big event. Um, After that, we had a dev panel that was interesting. It shed some light. That'll probably be voted, I assume, because there was nothing in there that was. I think what won't be voted will be like the piano performance, the primals performance. Um, they they went over a lot of like how did Alexander gets there, the relationship with like how do they design things when they know it's going to be streamed. How do they try to tell a story through mechanics? When do they not? When do they? And so it was good to see that workflow. It was good to understand that, especially when you start to talk about things like Ultimate, where development is very expensive and very deeply thought out, and the quality level is meant to be very high. That's why we only have three of them. So I think that the dev panel was insightful as always. It's not something that you need to go back and like necessarily record every single question and answer. It's more what gives us context when, like, I know Brian and I comment on, you know, why we think the likelihood of something happening or isn't happening is the case, because they've given us context to just like when I say something's expensive, like how expensive. When they say something required a lot of work, how much work. And this was just another chance to kind of get some impression of what goes into the makings of content. This is informative the same way that we got a feel for workflow and all of that. Looking back over the keynote, I think the big winner in the room is Oceanic Data Center. I think the Oceanic Data Center means long-term health for the game. It means worldwide growth for the game. Disappointed not to see an Xbox reveal. Thrilled to see Male Vieira for people that's important to. I know that's a huge portion of the community. Reaper looks shiny without seeing how it performs in actual combat. A job action trailer on its own doesn't inform us wildly beyond hype. But I am hyped for it. It looks great. I'm not a melee DPS player, so I don't know that it'll end up being like, it's not something like, oh, I'm going to switch my main. But yeah, I'm thrilled that it's there. I'm thrilled that it's being added to the game. The game's gonna have what, 20 battle jobs now? Is that right? A lot. And so no one job should really be put so high on a pedestal that everything else has to fall by the wayside. There's always going to be people that feel their job's in the worst state. There's always going to be people that feel like it's been the longest since their job's been updated. I commented in Brian and I filmed like what we thought would happen with Summoner, and I opened the video by saying like I don't really know what's going on with Summoner. Like I'm level 30 at the time of recording. Now I'm level 40. It's not really my thing, and so from my perspective, like I can just say like as somebody who doesn't play that job, it's like with the Grease Lightning change. The Grease Lightning change accidentally, when it was put into the patch notes, that section was accidentally put in French. It would have meant the exact same amount to me. Not because I haven't heard that monks wanted it, not because I haven't, I don't think it's going to impact the meta and the way other people play and the community at large, but because to me personally, I have no context. And so for Summoner, like all I can talk about is like, well, what happens when a job that's been changed is announced as another change, and I didn't understand the last changes. I would love to care. I would. I don't. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think this game is a huge place. It's designed for a huge number of people. So Male Vieira is huge news, even though I'm not going to switch. Oceanic servers are huge news, even though I've literally never even been to any of the countries that are going to likely be where people live that play on those servers. Don't have plans in the immediate future to visit any of those countries. I'm thrilled for Oceanic players. I think it's amazing. And it means a lot to the game as a whole, even though it doesn't affect me. Tonight was confirmation of we're getting a lot of stuff that we expected to get. We're getting a lot of stuff they told us about the showcase or things that we could guess at. It's nice to know a little bit more when they said an original Alliance Raid series. Hearing its myths of the realm or whatever that phrasing was is exciting, but it would have been exciting if you swapped that for any other series of words or proper nouns from Final Fantasy. History of an Ascian would have been just as cool of an Alliance raid series. Like Tales of insert anything here. Tales of a Scion. It doesn't matter. Anything. Any series of proper nouns from the game, and I could have been excited about it. So we're getting dungeons. Awesome. We're getting trials. Awesome. We're getting raids. Awesome. Alliance raids. Great. This is all great. I mostly at this point have questions about like what's going on with Island Sanctuary. When they mentioned offhand they were looking at possible changes to the housing system. Tell me more. That's a big one. That's a big like offhand statement that was just kind of like thrown, just like, oh yeah, I'm like, we're looking at that because we don't want RMT and we you know, like we don't think the system is perfect. I think that's big. I think, you know, saying we want a job that share a gear set with Dragoon is something. I think old Charlan, and then defining that it's old Charlan, and begs all of these lore questions that I'm probably not even going to know what all the questions are. I'm going to instead need to go to somebody like Ethis just to know what I even should be asking, much less the answer. It's a lot to take in. I'm disappointed with the November time frame. I'm disappointed that they wouldn't let people stream. I assume to protect us from the fact that they were playing all sorts of music during the intermissions. All sorts of music will be played during the Piano and Primals concert. I assume it's to protect from DMCA. It's disappointing that they didn't say like, hey, the music, you know, be careful, do at your own risk, because then I think those of us that have been covering it for a long time, or people who understand DMCA and copyright, you know, maybe they come from somewhere else, or they just ask around and they get a feel for it, would know, hey, during the intermissions, mute your coverage, do your reaction, hang out with your community. Because I saw a number of streams live. I saw there was like 15 streams with, there was 15 or 20 streams with over 500 people in it. And for anybody that's ever been on Twitch in the Final Fantasy XIV directory, that's ridiculous. You know, so not only is the mainstream doing, of course, phenomenal, but there's all of these giant places to hang out and be with people who are more likely to be excited about the parts of it that you're excited about. Answer questions in case you didn't know the showcase. This is your first FanFest. Maybe you've never seen a live letter. Maybe you don't have the context of all of the different interviews that have been given. These communities are great places for that, where the chat doesn't have to scroll as fast as when it's 95,000 and there's literally multiple languages being put in chat. It's like, no, 500's a lot, but it's slow enough that you can get some answers and all that. I'm bummed that the community portion, it felt odd because I don't really feel we were given any heads up, and yet like I was sent a t-shirt and I was sent salt and pepper shakers of Heidelin and Zodiark, and like there's all this thought that goes into this event, and I wish there had been maybe a little more communication on kind of why and what the thought behind that was and what the plan is moving forward. Obviously this FanFest, everything's been thrown out the window. That was, nothing is as originally planned. Disappointed there's no Xbox announcement, but I feel like out of the 20 statements I've made here, the majority have been average or negative, assuming every statement I've made so far is equal, and that's just not true. That's just not true. Some of these statements are way bigger than others. Way bigger. Oceanic servers are enormous. Male Viera is enormous. Showing us the jobs, Reaper and Sage, and what they mean for the game and the balance moving forward is enormous. Showing us big giant zones, having all original raid and Alliance raid content. These are all huge things for the current and future health of this game, not just 6.0, but 7.0 and 8.0. This is an enormous amount of positivity moving forward. This is a great first day. I'm tired right now. I'm up. It's 3 a.m. and I want to get these thoughts out of my head while I am just thrilled. I got my whale right as the dev panel ended. Mine showed up in the mailbox, said it'd been there for an hour. You haven't been there for an hour. I've been refreshing every 4 minutes. And I went to Mordona. There were still a bunch of whales there. Tweeted out an image. I heard there was a crazy number earlier. I'm so excited. We had a member of the community donate some whales to match our whales. We had a bunch of whales. We had a bunch of giveaways. Benny was there. People were buying the collector's editions, and and just the hype around this event, the community drawing together. the general positivity, the new players, people finishing up their free trial, deciding how to get into the complete edition, people, we have some complete editions we want to give away on stream tomorrow. The people, all of this, the whole community, this is as close to the exhausting, overwhelming sensitivity, like numbing positivity and excitement that FanFest in person has. This is the closest I can picture it being. Is it perfect? No, it's not. And when people go to FanFest, there's people whose flights are delayed. There's people whose room gets messed up. There's negativity, but the general overall feel, even if you wrote down all 10 things that happened to you and 7 of them were negative, those few are positive, and they're so wildly positive that this experience is just something I hope people are having a blast with. I hope they're cherishing. We still have more. We still have another day. We still have whatever they do, either a media tour or whatever they do in lieu of the media tour. We don't know anything on that yet, as far as like how the job actions and all of that stuff gets distributed as information. Does it go through content creators and sites like IGN and Kotaku like it has in the past? Does it come out directly through the community team? What's the plan there? Does it go directly to... I don't know. We'll go into 555. It's just going to be a lot, and I'm really excited. And I'm worn out, but what an amazing first day of a convention that's effectively all digital, all centered on one game from one company. It's an incredibly niche thing, right? It's a whole lot about a whole little. It's just one game for one expansion. The dev panel looking back, the keynote looking forward, the whole thing. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. The only things that I'm regretting are all because like I wanted it to be shared with more people, because I wanted, there to be communities, even if it was just pre-approved, and I could just be in like State of the Realms got to stay live. They had permission, and so I got to be there with FS and Mr. Happy. Like, it's not necessarily like, it's not that work to game needs to be live. It's just that like community teams in general really mean something special when you're watching something digitally, especially something that's live translated, where there are these moments where they're speaking Japanese, the translation isn't coming out, and you can use those brief seconds to answer questions in chat and fill out things that like there's no way they can. They're live to 150,000 people. My only regrets are because I wanted more of the positivity. Nothing that like I really feel is like, oh, that's a bad thing. It's like, no, there's a good thing, and I want more of that good thing. So thank you to Square Enix. Thank you to the devs for starting an incredible event. I will probably film something that is almost identical to this tomorrow with different information, and I assume the same positivity. I'm going to go get some sleep, and I'm going to wake up and be live and have a blast with the community and Benny and Brian and Benny brought a friend that helped kind of fill out our party for Palace of the Dead. And and I think the best way to wrap this up is to say right here at the end, for anybody hanging out here, I don't know how to say thank you. I don't know how to show it genuinely. I think if I open with it, it comes across as like, I don't know. But the support today, the follows, the comments, the monetary support, the excitement is really special. Is really made what was already going to be a great day something really special to host. I went full time in January. I mention it regularly, just in case anybody's kind of wondering how long we've been doing this. And it's May, and like the amount of support from this community has just been astounding. So I don't know how to say thank you other than just keep going. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to keep hanging out. We're going to keep being a place for discussion, even when you don't agree with me or I don't agree with you. Reasonable discussion. We're going to be a place to teach and learn and laugh and share everything that is related to gaming. Kinda.